Hey guys, welcome back to Sophisticates by Mary. For this tutorial, I'm going to do another acrylic gloss technique. This time it's going to be another ghost swipe, but I'm going to make it a little different by making it into an offset architectural type design. So let's get started and I'll show you how we do this. So I am using two 6-inch square cakes. Each cake has, I believe, 4 layers of cake in it to get us up to about 6 to 7 inches tall. I didn't care if they were exactly square, same measurement, height, sides, and everything, just basically cuboidal. Big word, cuboidal. So this is a vanilla cake, and I am filling it with American buttercream, and I'm just using dark chocolate ganache as my dam and my crumb coat. This is a dark chocolate ganache, and it's 3 parts chocolate to 1 part cream. I will try to remember to leave the recipe in the description box. And this is just a rough crumb coat. I mean, not rough, but you know what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point. If you want to get exact crisp corners, if that is very important to you, you could always use plexiglass discs to do this technique that you can purchase online. Or you can cut your cake board on the bottom and the top and use the cake board, the cake rounds, as the same type of technique. And I did that in other videos, and I'll try to remember to link those as well so you can see how to do that. And we're doing the same technique, the same process on both cakes, but I'm only showing you on one because, you know, long videos. But in between the crumb coat and this final coat, pop it in your refrigerator for 20 minutes or your freezer for 10 minutes, just to firm it up. It makes life much easier. And I'm going to add a little disclaimer here too. On my other videos where I've done this technique, to get the gloss look, I used confectioners glaze. I just don't want to forget to mention this. On this one, I didn't use anything. It's just a mirror glaze, and I think it was pretty shiny as it was. Now to do this, we're going to use acetate sheets. Now I measured the size of my cake, the distance around, and the height, and so I know exactly how long I need these pieces to be. The height doesn't matter so much because I went ahead and cut it down. And this is for the top, and you'll notice that yes, I used a round pan, and I discovered that I did that wrong while I still had time to correct it, so I did go back and do this with square. I just didn't get footage of that because it was after I had already put my camera away when I realized it, so it's the same technique. Just cut out your acetate sheet the size you need it, a little larger than the cake, about 1 inch larger all the way around. Roll out. I just use black fondant. The trick with that, with the fondant, is just to use a shade that's similar to your base color. Since it's going to be a deeper, darker purple, black is a good base coat to start with because you're not going to see that through the purple like you would a white. And I was afraid that if I used white, it would lighten up the purple potentially, and I wanted it a deeper shade. So roll these out pretty thin. You can roll this out to about even 1/8 of an inch thickness. You don't need a lot. The purpose for the fondant is for the glaze to have something to stick on, so that you can transfer it on the cake more easily. I have tried this with buttercream and it did not work. Apparently you can do that. I just haven't figured out how. Now I'm just smearing on some shortening. My hands are clean and dry. Don't worry, you can use a brush if you feel better about that. If this were for purchase, I probably would do that, but this is just for demonstration, so I just made sure my hands were clean and dry. Use some shortening to attach the fondant to that. Now this is a foam core board that I have cut down, and I used some of the clear like shelf liner to cover that. Put some shortening on top of that as well, so that you've got the liner is stuck to the acetate sheet just with shortening, just so it doesn't move around. And this is mirror glaze, is how I'm achieving this look. I will link my white chocolate mirror glaze recipe that I like to use in the description. Also, there's a lot of things linked. And that is what I'm using to do this acrylic technique. It's basically exactly the same. If you have ever done acrylic pour, techniques. It's the same techniques, just using a different medium. And you do have to work quicker with the mirror glaze because it does like to set up faster. You don't have that playtime like you do with acrylic paints. And what I did here was I just heated up some piping gel, and then I added some gold luster dust to it. I'm just dipping my spatula in it, and I am swiping that way. And that's what's giving me that kind of lacy look with the gold. And then I'm using my creme brulee torch to remove bubbles, and I have also found that that helps to create more lacing in the mirror glaze. If you got too sharp of a difference between your colors, what's the word I'm looking for? If it's too abrupt, if it's not wispy enough, use the creme brulee torch to kind of try to wisp that out a little bit, but make sure that you're not holding it in one place for too long because it can actually torch it and scorch it a little bit. You don't want to do that. And another thing I have not mentioned in my previous videos is that make sure that you're doing this on a level surface, just like acrylic paints, because it will move. It's going to move on you, and that is something I have a problem with on my counter. All of these techniques that I have done, I have struggled with that a little bit because my countertop is curved. It came curved before I installed it in my kitchen, and so I wrestle with that. I would like these to be a little bit more, well, as perfect as abstract can get. A little more control over my product, I guess I could say. See, you can see there that it's just wanting to kind of travel up the my painting, quote unquote painting. I don't want it to go that far up, but it's just the shape of my countertop. It's infuriating because I never get exactly what I have in mind, but I still like them. And here you can see where it's kind of softening that edge in the different colors. And if you don't like it, if you work fast enough, if you try to fix it fast enough, you can wipe off what you don't like and reapply here and there. And I'm just removing the excess there. And I would put these in your freezer. You need to put this in your freezer once you have it applied, at least overnight. In humidity, you might want to do it longer. I would leave it in up to a week almost, 5 to 7 days if you have the time, but I don't. So I had to do it just overnight. It wasn't even quite 24 hours. It was maybe 20 hours. And it wasn't quite long enough. It was a little sticky, a little tacky. And here in Iowa, this time of year, it's very humid, and that was fighting me also. So you'll see in one spot when I attached the panel to the cake, it did pull away on the acetate sheet a little bit, but that's the back. And that's just my advice. Just leave it in your refrigerator longer. If you can touch it and it does not stick to your finger, then it's probably set up well enough, but at least 24 hours. Now I'm attaching these panels with just shortening. You could use simple syrup if you want to. That would be fine too. Even water will attach the fondant to the ganache, because that's what you're really attaching there, is fondant to ganache. So any technique that you use to do that should work just fine with this technique. Now this is my second panel, or my panel for my second cake. Now you can see there I'm cutting it down to size. I coated the back of my ruler with shortening to help it not stick so much to it. I put a little bit more on the second tier than I did on the first tier. Oh, actually, this is the first one, isn't it? I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Coat the back with some shortening. And then this second sheet of acetate, put shortening on it also. That's going to keep it from sticking to your glaze. A good coating of it. Don't be skimpy. And flip it over. I had to remove that extra piece of acetate so that it would not, so it would fit on the cake right. Otherwise, it wouldn't go all the way down to the bottom of the cake. And I just like to start on one side and smooth it so that you're removing air bubbles as you are smoothing around your cake. You do have a little playtime. You're not going to smudge it up too much. As long as that acetate is still on it, you have a little playtime. And here's the top tier. I just skipped all that extra part because you already saw me do that. It's the same thing, just on both. And I'm just rubbing out those air bubbles. You're not going to be able to get a real crisp corner on a square cake just because of the nature of the medium you're working with. It's not going to do that like just plain fondant would, but that's okay. You still get the cube effect. Now I did go back, put them back in the freezer for about another half an hour to an hour so that that fondant firms up, so you can just use your sharp blade with some shortening on it and slice off that extra. Now here I just cut a piece of parchment paper the size of my tier that's going on top so I could mark out where my supports need to go. Because not only was I doing kind of a gravity defying look, I wanted them to be askew from each other, so you can easily get lost in where you're putting things. Don't look at me, look at the cake. Don't look at me, look at the cake. And I did not add any buttercream because in between the tiers, because it's sticky enough. That's not a problem. And I just sharpened this dowel. This is what's going to hold it in place. Sharpen a dowel and drive it straight through both of them. That is going to give you your stability that you need. And then just I didn't honestly know how I wanted to decorate this cake. I wanted to not take away from the design. I didn't want to do anything too gaudy or too floral. So I just took some floral wire and I just wrapped them together, brown floral wire. I painted them with a little gold and I just attached them with a floral wire hook. So there you go, guys. Here's my new version of the abstract acrylic gloss technique. I hope you like it and give it a go. And if you do, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.